let's talk about CEF, because now, as I know we spoke before we started recording, I haven't been in the industry all that long, just shy of 7 years. Probably will be 7 years at the time this goes out. And when I started, CEF were not the same company they are today. In truth, there wasn't a whole lot of noise around CEF, and you were, from my perspective, seen as like a small independent branches here and there. Fulfilling orders on medium-sized projects maybe. That's been quite a change. So what's happened? What have you done to redefine yourselves?
Okay, so I've been in the industry over 30 years, which is far too long. But I've been at CEF 3 years. But I think the interesting thing for me, the CEF, before I joined, I had a different perception of CEF until I started to sort of talk to the guys and they were kind enough to offer me a position. Then you realise what the proposition's about. So you're right. Traditionally, CEF was very much seen as a high level of service. That was really important to the business as it is today, but targeting very much the SME business. So lots of branches, locations. I mean, there's over 395 locations in the UK. Always had a high number of locations, high level of service, but targeting that SME type, contractor type business. I think the fundamental change started around about 2014.
Right.
So, and this is where the supply chain plays an absolute critical part in the brand development. So, Andy Mosley was brought on board as commercial director. Andy in 2014 started to build a category management team.
Right.
So in 2014, a lot of the major brands weren't actually dealing with CEF.
Right.
And there's various historical reasons for that. So in 2014, the journey started to create this relationship with more brands within the industry. And Andy's been absolutely critical in the development of that. And as we are today, we deal with all the major brands. So from 2014, that journey started. I think at the same time, there was a willingness to develop more vertical markets, so go away from keep supporting the traditional markets they're in, but develop new markets as well. So there was a development of a national accounts approach, which had a bit of a stop-start approach until Mark Raspberry took that on board around about 2017, 2018.
Right.
The rise in the national accounts through CEF has been phenomenal. So there's been a real desire to drive certain verticals. So national contractors, for example, in 2014, very few national contractors would have seen CEF as part of their proposition.
Exactly.
So that development has come on board. The rail market, FM market, social housing, hospitality. So we've been very specific on the vertical markets or the wider markets that we want to grow. And I think to do that, they've invested in skill sets.
Right.
They've invested in internal support, and the supply chain has played absolutely critical part of it. It's such an important part of that jigsaw.
Yeah.
The customer relationships, yes, you develop those and some existing relationships over many years, but it's that support from the other functions. And CEF's been, the family has invested in the support that's needed in the back office as well as the sort of front end of the business to support that. The other critical thing about the development has been the branch network. Right. So obviously the journey that we've taken onto the newer sectors, the new markets, the branches have had to adapt to how they service those type of accounts.
Right.
So we've been very clear, and there's been a lot of clarity and consistency in the message to all the staff. As I said, CEF's very keen to ensure that every member of staff is fully briefed and understands the strategy and the journey that we're going on.
Right.
And that happens on a regular basis, briefing at all levels within the business.
Yeah.
The other real sort of shift of the brand, I think, was the consistency of pricing.
Okay.
So the publication of a priced catalogue was a huge line in the sand. So that price catalogue now, which also is the same as the web offer and the online, a customer knows that they are going to pay a consistent price when they go into any of the 395 locations.
Yeah.
And that is an absolute a huge change. And by drawing that line in the sand and having that consistency, that gave the integrity within the business as well. That it was just a huge movement, and I think customers realised that, supply chain realised that, as well as staff did as well. The other movement is perhaps a little bit on the softer side, but it's really critical. CEF traditionally weren't part of the industry's sort of infrastructure, so the EDA,
right,
the EIC. So obviously the past president of the EDA is Chris Ashworth, who's CEO in the UK. Jamie Saunders is president of the EIC charity. So it's very much CEF. It's integrated itself within the industry, and for the greater good of the industry as well.
Yeah.
The consistency of the conversation, the consistency of the message to staff, also allows us to be very agile.
Right.
So I think one of the things that's helped develop the brand and the flexibility is how agile we are. We can pivot. So CEF's not afraid to actually try something new. Now, it may not always work, but we're agile enough and we have the flexibility. So we're trying to look forward. We're trying things that's new, but we have that we're agile to try to deal with that as well. So,
So you've a lot. There's been a lot going on.
It sounds a lot, but it's all sort of been... because we've brought the staff with us, I keep going on about that, but I can't stress it enough that the staff are absolutely critical to this, and by having the values within the business and the staff having visibility of what we're trying to do as a business, what the strategy is.
There's no smoke and mirrors.
Absolutely none whatsoever, and everyone's approachable. And I think there was an atmosphere there that any member of staff can approach any member of the management team at any stage.
That's the same with us. We're obviously not the size of CEF, and we're all pretty much contained within this one building. But yeah, we're definitely taking that approach more and giving that transparency to staff. And it's a bit of a journey. And similarly, we've got a lot of agility. We'll pivot, as you say, and we'll go, right, we want to try that. Doesn't always work out, no. But having a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit isn't a bad thing. So people can get confused, but we are trying to take them along with us on the journey.